What's up, everybody? How we doing today? So I just wanted to share some knowledge with everybody. So we did a large training. Actually, let me change this. I don't know, a couple weeks ago, and I'm breaking it down into bite-sized pieces. I had some time, wanted to rewatch this presentation, so I'm going to share it with everybody who's watching across all the different platforms we are live on. So if you have any questions, throw them in the chat, in the comments, and that's about it. So message me if you got any comments, and we're going to get started and listen to Jay Kinder talk about the 5 ways to price a listing right up front. Let's go here. Let me know if the sound isn't working at all.
Jay Kinder is an industry icon, most known for building a mega agent team, selling over 531 homes a year, and building a proven, repeatable system backed by market research to exponentially grow your real estate business. Some awards include #2 Coldwell Banker Agent Worldwide, multiple years, #14 Agent Worldwide by Wall Street Journal, and he is the co-founder of the National Association of Expert Advisors. Here is Jay Kinder.
Here he is, the man himself, Mr. Jay Kinder. What's going on, Jay?
And it's a great day. It's a great day today. I'm excited to share this process. And for those of you who have been through have the badge of honor of going through the 07, 08 downturn, a little fist bump for you guys out there and gals who have been through that. There's a lot of things that change and when markets change, and we're in uncertain times. So what I wanted to do today is I'm going to share with you guys a 5-step process to win every listing at your price and full commission every time. And this was extremely valuable to me in 07 and 08. It was a process that I developed over years and years and years of going on multiple listing appointments per day. And getting things priced right is critical if the market does shift and we start to see prices come down a little bit. You don't want to be fighting overpriced listings that don't sell. And so we'll start with the first step in this process. So the first step in this process is really, I call it the pre-appointment. It's the what happens prior to the appointment. And obviously there's the information gathering and part of the process where you have to learn about the property, the home seller, pull up all the comps and do all of that part of the work. But there's a document I'm going to share with you guys. And this is a critical component to the process. And there's a couple of key things on here that I want you to do. Make sure you start doing if you're not getting this information. And it will become very helpful as we move through this process. Use some of this information. So if you would pull up the seller, whoops, not that one, that's this one. So this is the seller counseling interview. Okay, so this is the document that we fill out prior to the appointment. And there's a couple things on this form that I want you to, a lot of this stuff is pretty normal. It's probably information that you have currently on your seller counseling interview or your intake form. And this is one of the really important things to get from on this form is the target date. So what is the date that they would like to have the home sold? If they could wave a magic wand, when would you like to have the home sold? Gathering that date, because we're going to use that later in the appointment to really leverage data to show them the importance of getting the home sold in that time frame and how to price it. Another thing on here that a lot of times is helpful to ask is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the home? You want to get what they think about the home. No, that's not the one I was wanting. This one here. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how motivated are you to sell your home? That's another one that's going to be important. You can't motivate. You can't get leverage to motivate someone to price their home correctly if they are not motivated, if you don't know what their motivation is to sell. And so let's see, where is it? There's one other one here. There's one specific one I'm looking for that I have to teach you.
Is it the last question?
No, that will be the next one and the last one that I'll share on here. So, okay, so this one right here. So, do you have an idea what you think your home would sell for? So, the reason that question is critically important is because we're going to use that information to show them some 1,000-foot view of the market data, and we're not going to get into specifically into price. And I'll explain all that here in a moment, why that's important. But when you typically ask this question, the response you get is, Nick, why don't you role play with me and just give the answer? Yeah, well, I was kind of hoping you could tell me what the house was going to be worth. So if I ask that question, say, Nick, do you have any idea what you think the house might sell for?
Yeah, man, I was kind of hoping. I mean, you're the expert, right? I was hoping you would be able to give me that answer.
Yeah, but if you had to guess, what would you say?
I mean, if I had to guess, probably right around like 150.
Right. So that's what we call a reframe. All right. We'll move to the next one here in a second. But so that's what we call a reframe, right? So we're reframing the question. So again, if you listen to my tonality, it's non-threatening. I'm ending on a high note, right? Hey, if you had to guess, what would you say, right? And then you threw out a number. 9 times out of 10, if you reframe this question, they'll give you a number, and you're gonna need that number later. I'll show you why it's one of the most critical numbers that you have to have if you don't want to lose rapport with the seller later on. So we'll talk about that here in a minute. So it's just called a reframe. And I could have done it again if you said, well, I was really hoping you would tell me. Yeah, but if you had to guess, if you had to pick a number out of the air, you just reframe that same question a couple times, and you can get that information almost every single time. So it's very, very critical. I would not go on a listing appointment 07 and 08 without knowing that information, because I had to understand their mindset and where they were at and what they were thinking. So I knew how much I had to work on getting them to understand where the market was going and how to price it correctly. And so without being the enemy, right? And so this last piece is you want to always go last. Okay, there's different schools of thought on whether you should go first or you should go last. I can tell you this: the minute you give the price on a listing appointment, you're not going last, then you just lost, because they're going to still meet with other agents. And if you gave them price, then they're going to know what you think the house is worth, and they're going to use that information to make a decision. We don't want them to do that. So you want to always go last. And this is a little thing that I learned, because I started losing on listing appointments. I had a guy call me one day, and he was an agent for one of the top teams in the marketplace that I competed against regularly. Right. And he basically told me, he said, "Hey man, your 6 o'clock appointment, Jay, you had over in Sungate Edition. You can go ahead and free up your calendar. I took that listing this morning," and it really pissed me off. And right. So what I learned he was doing was he would go in on the listing and he would offer to discount it down to he would do a 4% listing. He would discount the 4% if they would list it right then, right? So he put a lot of pressure on him to do it right now. Hey, I'll do it for 4% if we do it right. He was a good closer. He was good. He was a sales manager at a Chevrolet dealership prior to getting real estate. Yeah. So he was really good. So what we started doing once we started learning what the competition does, which this is an important thing to do, is when you lose on a listing, always try to call and find out, why did you lose? Why did you decide to hire someone else? And in doing that, I found out that this is what he was doing. And so we created this little thing at the end, towards the end of this intake form, is I said, hey, I'd like for you to make a promise to me. Jay's going to be putting a lot of time and effort into getting ready for the appointment. Please do me a favor and just don't list your home with anyone until you've heard what we have that we have to offer that no one else can. Is that okay? And I usually add a little bit of I just wanted to make you aware that I'm just going to read it, because I'm going to make you aware that there's some agents that'll do anything or say anything to get you to sign paperwork on the first appointment. They use a lot of sleazy sales tactics to try to get you, try to close you to list the home with them. They'll even lower their commission to like 4% in some cases, because they don't want you to hear what we have to say. Right. And so just promise me that you won't sign anything until you hear Jay when he comes out on Friday at 6. Right. And then you wait for them to say, this is a moral obligation, right? We can leave this form now. So go back to the screen. And so that's a moral obligation. So now they have a moral obligation not to say yes. What we also did is a little bit of trickery here. That's some NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. I'm not an expert in NLP, but I do know how to use it. And so what we did was we said sleazy sales tactics to close you, sign paperwork. And we planted these little flags in their mind, and when that would happen, it would turn them off. They would get so turned off by someone trying to get the listing, trying to get them to sign paperwork, that they would literally not even know why, but they would lose rapport with that agent, and they would never sign anything. Obviously, they made a moral obligation, a promise they wouldn't sign anything too. So that eliminated that problem, and it never happened again. So those are two things that are really important in the process. And you want to always go last. I hate losing listings. That you should never lose. More importantly, you should definitely be getting them priced right. And this is the process for doing that. So that's the pre-appointment. We're going to do all of our homework. Don't ever go into a house and leave a seller knowing more information about sales in the neighborhood than you. You have to know everything about the neighborhood. You want to look stupid and lose your authority, then let the seller say something about a house that you didn't know about. So make sure you have all that information, be the expert, and do the homework. So the next step in the process, and I'll move quickly through this one, but this is building rapport. So when you get to the property, and this is the first time that you've met these people, you want to instantly connect and become their best friend. And you want to do this with both parties. Okay, so if you don't want to lose a listing, I had a situation where I went on a listing appointment, and I got really good at this, at building rapport. But the reason that I started really trying to understand, well, principally, what am I trying to do here in the first 15 minutes in the home? And in the past, what I would do is I would go in and I would take notes, and I'd be walking into every bedroom. I'm like, bedroom, closet, ceiling fan. I'm writing stuff down. And I'm like, what am I doing all this stuff for? Or I make the mistake of telling people, hey, you need to paint these cabinets. You're going to have to do this. You're going to have to do that. Well, you don't want to do any of that in the very beginning. Okay, so your only goal is to build rapport, connect, and become their best friend. I had this lady that I was the 5th appointment. They had interviewed 5 agents, and I'm just going last. I'm like, this has got to be, what kind of crazy people want to interview 5 real estate agents? Like, I knew that these people had to be nuts. And so, but I took, I set the appointment. We set the appointment. I was to go out with the last agent. They kicked every other agent out, and they weren't willing to do business with any of those agents. And so I was like, I had no idea what I'm going to get myself into here. But as I'm pulling up to the house, I see that there's a Harley Davidson truck and a motorcycle in the garage, and they had an Oklahoma Sooners mailbox. I'm like, this is going to be easy, right? Like, I can build rapport here easy. Right. So I get in the house, and everything was pretty much boxed up. And there was a couch and the table, a couple pieces of furniture, but everything was off the walls. Everything was boxed up. So there wasn't anything else for me to pull from. Right. And the first question you ask in this process is, you say, who wants to give me the grand tour? And you stick your hand out. Whoever answers the door, they're both there. And whoever, right then and there, what I was doing was I was learning which person was going to be the driver and the decision maker in the relationship. And that identified by either they take me on the tour, or they say, honey, you take them on the tour, whatever, right? So one of them is the decision maker. Well, in this case, the husband was being told what to do. So I knew that I was that the wife was the decision maker. But what I didn't know is that she didn't appear to speak English, because she wasn't speaking English to him. And so I was in a little bit of a pickle there. But I know this, and I had lost 2 listings. In 1 week, I lost 2 listings. And the feedback I got from the client was, we just felt more comfortable with the other agent. And it bothered me so much that I was like, what the hell does that mean, not more comfortable? And what happened was, I got so good at the presentation that I was running behind, because I was going on 3 or 4 or 5 appointments a day, that I rushed through and skipped the step of building rapport, and didn't spend the time on it, didn't make sure that I connected and became their best friend. And I got out-friended. And that's why I lost these 2 listings. And one of them was to an agent I'd never even heard of. And so I was like, this is insane. I don't want to not, I knew that I could have done a better job for them than the agent they hired. And something I did in the process messed it up. So I wanted to fix it. And so I was dead set on, I'm not going to go to the kitchen table, which is the next step in the process, is build your authority. I wasn't going to move to that step, knowing that if I don't do that, I might lose the listing. Like I've had it happen enough times that I know that I can't. I have to connect with this lady. So we're sitting on the couch. So I go to the couch, which is not my normal move. Now they don't know that, but I'm still in the try to connect with this lady. Is what I'm trying to do. And so we're sitting there, and I asked, so where are you guys moving to? And I'm mainly talking to the husband, and she's kind of being quiet. And then she gets all excited, starts speaking English. Thank goodness, right? Oh, we're going to Atlanta. She takes me to the computer, shows me where they're moving to. Luckily, that was something that she was excited about, because she did not seem like a very happy person. But she got excited, and so I connected with her, right? And said, so okay, so let's go to the table. Right. So now we're into that's the second step in the process. The third step in the process is establish your authority. One of the things that we always used is using a magazine tear sheet that you're on the cover of a magazine. And I lay that on the table, and I say, this is good bathroom reading material if you get bored, right? I'm not trying to like toot my own horn about how great I am to be on this magazine. I'm just saying, hey, this is, but what happens is when you understand that how people come to trust and how influence works is all they had to do was see me on the cover of a magazine, and the assumption that I'm an expert, the assumption that I'm an authority is there, right? And that's important. It's important because in order for them to listen to me, especially on price, when pricing becomes really important, they got to believe you. They got to trust you that you know what you're talking about, because you're probably going to be telling them a price that they don't want to hear. So this becomes absolutely crucial that you're an expert in the mind of the consumer. Like, they have to see you as an expert. So that little subtle thing of having a magazine tear sheet was a big deal. Something that shows your authority without you having to say anything about it. And as we would sit down, there's another step. This is a gold nugget that I'm going to share with you. So when you sit down, I would say, it's funny, when I got into real estate and I'd be spreading all my stuff down, my papers and getting everything out. And I said, when I got into real estate, they used to do this thing called a CMA, and it's kind of archaic because, essentially what it was we would, go pull homes that sold, 2 months, 3 months, 5 months, 6 months ago, and we would determine what the value of your home is. And it's kind of like looking in the rearview mirror. What the market wasn't the exact same as it was 3 months ago or 6 months ago. Those homes sold, but we don't know if it was, it could have, right? It could have smelled like cat urine. They could have been a hoarder. It could have been a renter that was, didn't let people get access. It could have been underpriced or highly motivated due to a divorce. Those are things that an appraisal or comparables don't show, and CMAs don't show. So rather than you hire me to look backwards at the values of homes that have sold, the reason I believe you got me here is because you want me to show you how to sell your home at the top of the market in today's market. Right. And that's what we're going to talk about here today. And so what happens when you do that is, because every real estate agent on the planet uses a CMA, is you just created this huge of doubt over everything that agent had to say. They now look like a complete idiot without you saying. You never want to call someone an idiot, but by using that process and talking about the CMA being archaic, there's probably a few agents that are still dinosaurs and that still use this process. But the reason you guys have me here, because here's what happens: they're going like this the whole time. Oh, that makes sense. That makes sense. No, yes, we definitely, we're hiring you to sell it for the most amount of money today, not what yesterday's prices were. You know what I'm saying? Right. And so that's a key little nugget that if you do that, you'll eliminate 9 out of 10 of your competitors that do it.
Yourself from all those other agents too. You're different from all. You state it in a logical way that they can follow and it makes sense. And everybody wants 2 things: they want more time and more money. If you get someone to sell for more money, they're going to be instantly interested like that.
Right. Yeah. So again, if you think about, like, if there's a meter here that our authority starts to go up, right, to a certain point. And the reason this, again, I want to reiterate the importance of this. The reason this is important in a declining market or a softer market, which is what I'm not anticipating that it's going to be a market crash like 07-08, but we will probably be dealing with prices, coming down in some markets. And that's going to be the case. Then you have to get them to believe you when you're telling them where it needs to be positioned in order to sell. And so this stuff becomes very important. Otherwise, they believe the other agent that tells them a price that was ridiculous, and you don't get the listing, right? Like, this is life and death if you want to survive in this market. So during this authority process, what we're going to do is, and I want you to never, ever, ever, ever give them price again. So the reason that we got price up front, their price, is because I want to know what they're thinking, right? And sometimes they'll give you a ridiculous number that even they don't believe, but that's okay. The biggest mistake that you make in this next step in this process is if you don't include what their number is in your range that you use. So let's say, for instance, you told me 150,000. So I'm going to pull up comps, and we'll pull up this document here. It's called a market. By the way, for everybody that's going, well, what the hell do you do if you don't do a CMA? You do what's called a market absorption analysis, and we'll get into comps later, which we'll use to determine what the house is probably worth. Right. And we're still going to do the same things you do in a CMA. We're just not going to do it like everybody else. We're going to be different, right? Like, if you want to, the one thing I learned from Dan Kennedy, I learned a lot from Dan Kennedy, but one of the most important things is money moves the difference, not similarity. And if everyone else is doing the same thing, why wouldn't they just hire the person that's the cheapest? right? So I want to get the most. I want to be able to charge the most. I want them to see the value in what it is that I'm doing, and I want them to see me as the authority, so that they listen to me when I tell them what they need to do to price it right to sell.
Right.
So let's go ahead and pull up this next form here. So this is a market absorption analysis, and I'm going to try to simply go over this. It's for some people, I think it gets a little bit complicated as you're looking at this form. So
do you have it up?
Oh, I'm sorry, I don't have that shared. Hang on a second. Let me.
Yeah.
The wrong
big
one.
thing about what you're saying too is it's clearly different, right? You're clearly stating the difference between what they are and what you are. So it's pretty much us versus them. We're the experts, and then there's everybody else.
Right, exactly. And so, and again, you're keying in on what their interest is. They want you to sell the home for the most amount of money in today's market. That's what they're interested in. They're not interested in what houses sold for in the past and how that might impact their home. Now, we're going to have to talk about that and later, but we're not going to do it at this point. So this is what's called a market absorption analysis. I created this form because of the kind of in using this process. When I'm dealing with somebody that I know, let's say Nick said his house is worth 150. I'm going to pull up. I'm going to look at how many current number of homes are on the market, and I'm going to do this work. I'm going to fill this out prior to arrival, and I might leave some of it undone, but I know their target date, so we're going to say that it's 90 days. Let's say you told me it was 90 days. You'd like to have it sold by in 90 days, and I'm going to look at the current number of homes on the market, the number of homes that failed to sell, so the homes that failed to sell in the last 12 months, the number of homes that sold in the past 12 months, and then the total number of homes sold per month, right? So what I'm getting here is how many months worth of inventory. So let's say that there was 120 homes that were on the market, and only 10 homes a month have sold in the past. Looking historically, only 10 homes a month sell. So that means we have an inventory of 120 homes for 12 months. And only 90 days worth of homes are going to sell in the next 90 days. Only 10 homes a month are going to sell, meaning 90 homes aren't going to sell, and only 30 homes are going to sell. And so as we're doing this kind of math together, I usually do this part with them. Say, okay, so that means, okay, so there's going to be, and we look at that price range that we're going to use here. Is the price range we're going to use is as long as it includes the 150,000. Let's say the house is probably not worth more than 100. I might pull from 80 to 160 or 170 or 180, even somewhere in that range. So it's going to be too broad to really be exactly accurate in some cases, but you always include their number, because if you don't include their number in that number, then what happens is they'll look down, it'll look back up at you like they're no longer your best friend, right? Like you just built all this rapport, and I see it right in front of my face whenever I've done it, and I made this mistake of not including what they think the house is worth. You can see it in their face. They're like, I don't trust this guy at all. I don't want to hear anything.
It's like, you don't listen to me, you don't trust my opinion, right?
Right, exactly. Even if the numbers are ridiculous.
You're at 21 minutes, just so you know. Yeah. Okay,
cool. Thank you. And we're moving. We're on target, baby. This is good. All right. So then what I would do in extreme, if somebody's way off in price, I'm going to spend a lot of time on this. I might even print out the whole 120 homes that are going to not sell, and I'll highlight, okay, right here, this right here are going to sell. These pages of homes are not going to sell. Right. You understand what I'm saying, right? So then I ask them a question. I say, guys, what do you guys think we need to do to be one of the 30 homes that sell and not one of the 90 homes that don't sell? And I just, first person that talks loses, right? They're coming to their own conclusion. Well, we probably need to be priced correctly, right? We need to be priced right. Well, we're probably going to have to fix the deck, right? They're without me saying anything, we're discovering price without me having to tell them bad news. Because this is where this is extremely valuable. So we're still best friends, right? You still love me, and I'm still I'm still an expert when it comes to the market. One thing that I would tell everybody that they should use is keeping current matters. So KCM is keeping current matters, and the boys over there, Bill and Steve Harney, they create really, really good national scope of the marketplace data. Okay. And so before I get to this form, I would have done 2 or 3 other things that would have really built up my authority. The first place I would have went to was, once I kind of reviewed, hey, you guys are moving to you guys looks like you're moving to Cleveland to by in the next 90 days. So by whatever date that is, July 1st. Right. And so, and you guys are moving there because you want to be closer to your grandkids, right? Okay. So once I get through the, everything that they confirm the date, the times, and everything that they said in the seller counseling interview, I say, based on everything you share with me, there's no question I can get you guys moved to Cleveland by July 1st. And from this point moving forward, guys, I'm going to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. Are you okay with that? That just changes the whole dynamic of the relationship. You went from being the best friend to being now you're the authority figure in this conversation. Now you're the advisor. You're advising them like a doctor would, right? So, and they always they crave this, right? They don't want to see a dog and pony show of you telling people how great you are and how many awards you have and all that crap. They don't care about that. Now they know that, hey, you're going to tell me what I need to hear because you want to get to you understand that I want to get to see my grandkids by July 1st, and that's an important date for me. Right. And in many cases, you might run into people not having real motivation and understanding what that motivation is. So one of the questions that you want to make sure you're asking during this as you sit down and you're gathering your stuff to say, you guys said you want to be sold by July 1st. I'm curious what would happen if the home doesn't sell. Right. And a lot of times what people will say, they'll look at each other like, well, it has to be sold because we're moved already and it, we have to have it sold. Okay. So, so we absolutely have to be sold by July 1st. If they say no, say, okay, well, what if it didn't sell by, let's say October, what would you do then? Oh no, absolutely. We would have to, I don't know what we do. Would we lease it? I don't know, honey. Like you got to take them to the pain of a home not selling and get, you got to uncover that pain. If you can't get clear motivation, get to a point where there is motivation. And then they'll look at each other and be like, no, you remember my aunt when she leased her home and they moved in and they never could kick them out. They were like squatters. They never paid the rent. They tore the house up, blah, blah, blah. Like they'll have a story or a reason why they don't want to do that or whatever the case may be. But again, you're getting them to a point of pain and that's leverage for you to use later if you have to get them to see, hey, listen, you told me about your aunt that had the house that got destroyed and ruined. I can tell you from experience that you don't want to lease this house. If you can, you want to make sure that it sells. So it's going to be really important that we get it priced where it needs to be. Like when they're objecting to a price, you got to have that motivation so that you can use that as leverage to get them to make a good decision in pricing. And so that's that. So we can go back to just to the regular screen there. Essentially you pull all that out and you're going to highlight the number of homes that won't sell and again get them bought into getting it priced correctly. Right. And so the other documents that I would have gone over is with KCM is a national scope of the market, and you need to be an expert and know what's going on. The things that are happening right now, we don't know what's going to happen as far as are there going to be mortgages that go into default, or is that going to be not? Is that not going to be allowed? And is that going to be something that with the job losses and things of that nature? How's that going to all play out? I don't know, but I know that it would be really good if we didn't have a bunch of people that went into foreclosure. I saw 3 million something people filed for unemployment. That's a big number. So that's there's a threat that there would be this inventory of potential foreclosures. There's going to be people that are motivated to sell. That all drives prices down. And so again, not saying that I predicted this major downturn, but the writing is on the wall that we are in for some kind of change. And so at this point, you want to be the expert on what is going on. And Keeping Current Matters gives you great stuff to share. And they give you the documents. They tell you how to use what to say and how to talk about these things. Whether you're working with a buyer or seller, it's killer. So good stuff. I recommend everybody. If you're not an expert or you don't feel like you're an expert, if you get KCM, you'll feel like an expert. And this is national scope of the market. Nobody else is doing that. Nobody else is coming in and talking about, let me tell you what's going on overall in the industry, just so you can be aware. Here's what's going on with rates. Here's what they're predicting. Here's what's going on with the downturn and with coronavirus and the impact on real estate. And here's the documentation. And you got these pretty graphs and stuff you're showing them. And they're like, all I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get to a point where they look up at you and they go, oh, wow, this dude's smarter than me. Because they think they're smarter than us. They think that they know how to price the house. They ain't sold no houses before, most of them, right? But they're going to try to tell you where to price it, right? So I'm trying to eliminate this thing. I want to levitate to a level of authority that they say, whatever this guy tells me to do, I'm just going to do it, right? And that's what you need them to do, because they will make a bad decision otherwise. You can't make a decision based on hope, not in a changing market. You got to get ahead of it. And so
28 minutes, by the way.
How many?
28.
28 minutes.
Yep.
It went up.
You're
I'm at 28 minutes.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah,
good. So this is the key component. And in all honesty, this is the meat and potatoes.
Right.
The presentation, once you've got to this point, you're moving on to the presentation. You use this what I just said earlier. It's called a transition statement. It said, guys, Joe, Mary, based on everything you guys told me, there's no question I can get you guys moved to, because you want to reconfirm that, hey, I can get this job done. Don't worry that. Yeah, there's going to be 90 homes that don't, or 90 homes that do sell, or 90 homes that don't, and 30 that do. But I have no question I can get this home sold, and I'd like to show you how I'm going to do that. And then now you have permission to give your presentation of your process of how you're going to sell the home for the most amount of money, right? And once you get to the end of the presentation, that's where you say, do you see that this system would be able to sell your home for the most amount of money in the current market? And they say, yes, they just hired you. And you have not talked about price or commission. If they ask about price or commission, you say, we're going to get to that. We're going to cover that later. What you want them to say yes to is your system, not you personally, not your awards and your system. So once they say yes to that, they've hired you. And now you can start to talk about the other that need to be done to the home, if any. What things are we going to do? Walking through the home, telling them any upgrades and things they might want to do to position and price the home correctly. Let's look at these comps. Let's go in and look at the actives. And I do it all, draw it all on. People are fascinated by you doing the work, right? And so that's what you want to do. And that's the process, right? So in 30 minutes, hopefully that was valuable, but you're going to have to become very good at getting the price where it needs to be, and getting people to understand what happens when a home doesn't sell, and using this trends data and analysis and stuff like that is how you do that.
Yeah, and just really quick, I think some of the key points that I took away from this is making sure that, number one, you get their pain points, right? Like, if this doesn't sell, what do you plan on doing? If it doesn't sell at this point, what do you plan on doing? You don't only just uncover the motivation, you're going to uncover that pain that comes with it. And the whole time you're adhering to that voice in their head that everybody has, what's in it for me, right?
Right.
What's in it for me, you're going to show them their price. You're going to show them their situation. This is what's going to happen if we go with this price. Here's the list of homes that don't sell because of that reason, right?
Right.
I have one quick question for you. So, like, you keep talking about, like, the stats that you want to bring to the table, and that's something that I know most agents that I've talked to after going to some of these W Your Business events and things going on. They're like, they don't know what stats and what information to bring to the table. So, can you kind of touch on that real quick?
Yeah. So there's a lot of different. So we stayed high level. We didn't get into neighborhood because I don't want to talk about the actual price of the home, because that's all they're going to ask for, and they'll just keep asking for it until you give it to them. So don't want to give that. So you want to stay higher level. So you're looking at a range of data, using that same, once we get into actual pricing, we're going to use Focus First. Focus First has a few different graphs, a scattergram that shows a kind of a trend line of homes that sell, and the ones that are the closest to the line. It's a really good visual for people to see, like, yeah, nothing sold at this price in this neighborhood ever, right? And stuff like that. So that's really good, a really good display of data. And that's really what I when I get down to the looking at comps, I'm gonna use the comps that I believe are the best comparables to be looking at, and also what's actively on the market. And then the thing that you want to look at in this price range is you want to pay attention to in a down market. If you want to predict what's happening, there's one number you need to look at all times to see if things are getting worse, and that is the pending ratio. The ratio of homes that are under contract compared to the number of active listings in that price bracket. Yeah. That number starts to, if that number continues to go down, once it gets to below 20%, then it starts to become a much more of a seller's market. And so just kind of knowing, some of those numbers that kind of are telltale signs, and even on the market absorption analysis, when you have really low inventory and there's less demand is going down, supply is going up, then you have to really be aggressively priced in order to be one of the homes to sell. So that's the things that I look at in the data that I'm trying to display and show them, without telling them just, oh, hey, I think it's worth, ta-da, here's my CMA, here's what it's worth. No, that doesn't work in a down market. You just piss people off. Yep.
I love it, Jay. Hey, as always, you brought a lot of value. I think you said it earlier when we announced this. It's gonna be raining nuggets. So yeah,
that's right, baby. Value, baby. Add value.
Value. I love it. Yeah. I love it, Jay. As always, it's a pleasure. Thanks for coming on and adding a lot of value. And we'll see
All right, guys. So I hope you learned some stuff. If you have any questions, want access to that replay and more, and you want a couple of those slides, I'm going to put a link in the comments for you. Feel free to message me directly if you want. If you need anything else for your business. All right. Hope everybody's doing great, and stay safe, everybody. Talk to you again.